All right, let me go to Kate, who is an immigration attorney. Kate, there is a Republican House member, Victoria Spartz, in Indiana, in one of the districts in Indiana. That's a very Republican state. Her district is very Republican as well. In fact, she won that seat by 56%. Well, she held a town hall meeting to discuss these very issues. It was a very boisterous town hall meeting. And during that meeting, she was asked a question that even though, Trump has deported these people to El Salvador or others that he's planning on deporting, are they not entitled to due process? In other words, do they have legal recourse? This is how she answered that. Let's listen.
A lot of these people, what President Trump did it last time when he tried, if you seek asylum, wait in the other country, not getting here in the country. So there is no due process if you come here illegally because you violated the law.
Okay, Kate, that was very difficult to hear, so I'm going to praise you what she said. She said a lot of these people, what President Trump did the last time when he tried, if you seek asylum, you wait in another country, not getting here in this country. So there is no due process if you come here illegally or you violated the law. Is she right?
Well, it's obvious that the Trump administration would like there to be no due process. They would like to be able to just pluck anyone off the streets and ship them off to a prison in a country that is not their own. And that's why they tried using the Alien Enemies Act to send Venezuelans to El Salvador, and they have denied sharing any information or background about why they are accusing these men of being members of the Tren de Aragua gang, which maybe they are, maybe they aren't. We don't have any information, and neither does the federal judge who's overseeing the case. But I can tell you that many of the families of these men, there are several hundred men from Venezuela who have been sent to El Salvador, and many of the families of these men are speaking out, emphatically denying membership in the gangs by these men. And so the usage of the Alien Enemies Act, which is a very old wartime law by the Trump administration, is a clear and blatant effort to circumvent due process. And it's true, in this country, we have rights. Immigrants and citizens alike have the right to see the evidence against them, and if they're charged with a crime or they're charged with deportation, they have a right to put on a defense.
Right, Kate, my understanding, I should say a layman's understanding of the law, is that it deals with specifics, it deals with definitions. Well, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was asked, what criteria did the administration use to identify these deportees as gang members? And this is what Marco Rubio said.
That list was carefully vetted, provided to us by Homeland Security. We have confidence in it. What we negotiated is the reality that they in El Salvador comply with all the international requirements for imprisonment. So we sent them people with a combination of people, gang members, people we knew were involved in activities that were not productive to the United States, all of them removable in terms of our laws, all of them. Every single one of them was someone who was removable from the United States, irrespective, and MS-13 members, many of whom are Salvadoran, that we had identified as MS-13 members that they had helped us identify as well.
So, Kate, there we heard Marco Rubio say that they were deportable, they were removable in terms of United States law. He said our laws. But do these laws make provision to deport people who may be here illegally in the country to a third country, like El Salvador, and they've been deported to a very notorious prison in El Salvador?
Well, I think the distinction about deportability or removability is important, because what happens is if someone is charged with deportability, the way that it functions is they go before an immigration judge and there is evidence brought forth against them, and they can put forth a defense, they can question the evidence, they can bring their own evidence. That's how someone gets charged with deportability. So what's happened here is the Trump administration has skipped over that step, and they've said deportability equals deportation. That's not how it functions. And to the question about whether someone can be deported to a third country, that is at play right now within the courts. My guess is that at the end of the day, the federal courts are not going to allow a deportation of Venezuelan nationals to El Salvador.
Kate, I'm going to talk about the legality of this case. This is a case of Ramesa Ozturk, the student that we are talking about. There is no evidence that she expressed support for Hamas. And even if she did, is that a violation of U.S. law? I mean, this case, as Imani pointed out, rests on an op-ed that she co-authored with others in which she criticized Israel for its policies in Gaza. I read that piece. The article makes no mention of any kind of support by anybody for Hamas. It is critical, as I said, of Israel. So what is her status? On what basis has she been detained and now faces deportation?
Well, we don't know, and this is again, you know, like the Venezuelans, or information has not been shared with us. We don't know what charges are against her. Of course, someone on a student visa does, you know, the executive does have a lot of authority over someone who's here. But of course, once someone's inside the United States, they have the right to go before a judge and have a judicial process. And the fact that they just picked her up off the street, these plainclothes officers, I mean, it was really horrific if you've seen the video, and very concerning. So a lot of this we'll have to see what happens in her case, but it's a lot like the Mahmoud Khalil case, you know, where we're going to have to see what charges they bring against her. And, you know, they will be able to put on a defense in immigration court, both of these people.
Kate, on this particular issue of birthright citizenship, is it going to happen? Because some experts say it's doomed.
No, there's no way the Supreme Court is going to uphold it. The federal courts have already weighed in, and they said it's blatantly unconstitutional for the president to try to cancel out the 14th Amendment. He's taken it up to the Supreme Court to say that lower courts can't issue nationwide injunctions. In all likelihood, the Supreme Court is not going to pick it up. We'll find out next week, but I think birthright citizenship is here to stay.